Good morning. It's good to see you back. We are beginning chapter 4 of the book of Ruth. I'm excited that you're joining me. And the title of the lesson today is Our Hero Makes His Move. We've been leading up to this very point where it's all going to culminate in a great love story ending. But do you remember, we're going to be back at the gate of Bethlehem, but do you remember the first time we were at the gate when we started this study? That's when Naomi and Ruth were coming back to Bethlehem, Judah, without their husbands, just to start out on their own. And when Naomi arrived there, remember, she told them to call her Mara, which means bitter. Like she just felt like the Lord had turned against her and things had not gone well. And so this time, just 4 short chapters later, when we see the gate back in play, everything's going to be different. And we're going to see how it all worked out. This is the first half of chapter 4 that we're talking about today. And verse 1 starts off like this. Then went Boaz up to the gate and sat him down there. Now I will explain this. Some ladies get a little salty that the men are sitting at the gate and the women seem to be busy, like with the virtuous woman in Proverbs 31. But it was an honor for a wife's husband to be sitting at the gate. That meant that he was respected. He was pulled in on the business of the city, things like that. And Boaz is a well-respected man. We've already established that. And it starts out with the word then. Then just means life goes on. Yeah, sometimes we want to get stuck in what is going on right here, what's going on in our lives, our momentary triumphs and struggles and all of those things. And while we're obsessed with the here and now, God is focused on forever, which is what we should be focused on. And hopefully through our struggles, we come back around to that mindset. So Boaz went up to the gate and he sat him down there. He has a plan. Do you remember at the end of last week's lesson, Naomi had told Ruth just to sit tight because before the day is out, we will know something. Boaz is going to take care of business, which is what he does. I'm going to read for you just a few paragraphs from the book that we've been using for this series on The Girls Still Got It by Liz Curtis Higgs. It says this. We know Boaz's motives are pure. We've already established that, right? It's that other kinsman redeemer we're worried about. While Naomi and Ruth sit tight, Boaz is seated too after heading straight into the public square, just as Naomi said he would. Boaz looks very much at home, settled in a prominent spot from which he can easily observe who's coming and going this morning. As a wealthy landowner, he's probably a town elder charged with maintaining peace within Bethlehem's walls. Today, he has only one goal in mind, redeeming Ruth and guaranteeing her future. His expression is resolute, his gaze even as he scans the crowded square. He must have stopped by his house en route because he's dressed in a costly tunic edged in gold. The Bible doesn't tell us that exactly, but we can imagine he probably changed clothes from where he'd been working. His head covering is neatly arranged across his shoulders. Though he is rich and powerful, Boaz wants to make certain the laws and customs of the land will protect and provide for Ruth should he not be the one to redeem her. Perish that thought, huh? If only that other kinsman would hurry up and get here. So that's how it kind of starts out in that chapter for the book that we've been using. And so going on with verse 4, chapter 4, verse 1, and behold, the kinsman of whom Boaz spake came by, and to whom he said, Ho, such a one, turn aside and sit down here. And he turned aside and sat down. So he came by, the kinsman came by. We know there are literally no accidents with God, no coincidences. It's just perfect timing. Boaz, who had been out in the field and at the threshing floor and all of that, he's at the gate and the nearer kinsman just happens to come by. No, we know that wasn't a happenstance, as we call that. It's God's timing, and it's always perfect. His timing is just as important as his plan. But notice how Boaz salutes him, calls for him, ho, such a one. Well, that sounds kind of strange to us. I'm reminded of my grandfather on my dad's side. I was at his house. I guess I was spending the night or something one time when I was a little girl, and somebody ran across the front yard. Well, we were up on Shades Crest Mountain, which at the time had nothing but just a couple of houses and a lot of wood. So for somebody to come running through the front yard was really unusual. And my granddad walked to the door and opened it and hollered to the man, "Halt, state your purpose." The guy kept running. I thought, "Halt, state your purpose." I have never heard that in my life. We would say, "Stop, what are you doing? Who are you?" But halt, state your purpose. So Boaz, in Bethlehem fashion, says, "Ho, such a one." But there's significance in the fact he does not call this nearer kinsman by his name. He has to know what his name is. We don't know. Even this many centuries later, we don't know. His name is not recorded for us to know who the nearer kinsman is. Could that be on purpose because of the way the story's going to play out? Because he's not going to, well, I better not tell you that. I'd be telling you what happens. Okay, I'll get to that part. I'll remember to tell you. So when he just calls out, it's almost like a general hello, hello you, hello so-and-so, something like that. He doesn't call him by name. And it could just be that he doesn't want to call importance to him, because we know how Boaz is hoping that this whole situation turns out, don't we? But the man clearly respects Boaz. Boaz told him to turn aside and sit down, and he did, even though he's older. Just imagine this is like uncle, nephew, maybe, or what about cousin? If your cousin told you to turn around and sit down, would you do it? There we go. And so this man obviously respects Boaz, even though he's older. Verse 2 says this, "And he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, Sit ye down here. And they sat down." Yeah, 10 elders of the city. These are well-respected men, possibly even older than Boaz. We know Boaz isn't a young, very young man, a little bit older. But these elders of the city, he told them to sit down, and they sat down. So obviously Boaz garners a lot of respect at the gate. So he must have been a leader of the town for them to respond that way. But don't you imagine around this busy square, people are starting to notice that the elders are gathering, because anytime they did, that meant business was going on. So Bethlehem business is about to take place. But I imagine that the town has had their eyes on Boaz and Ruth. It's been a little while. We have a rich bachelor and a poor widow. We know they're probably elbowing each other and saying, "Look what's happening here. Could this have anything to do with Ruth? She's not at the gate." But you and I were at the threshing floor. We know that there's still a lot to be decided. This isn't going to be as quick, maybe, as the townspeople think it might be. But verse 3 says, "And he said unto the kinsman, Naomi, that is come again out of the country of Moab, selleth a parcel of land, which was our brother Elimelech's." Wait a second, land. He's going to bring up the land, but he did not mention Ruth. Did you notice that? Yeah, I'll read it again. "Naomi, that is come again out of the country of Moab, selleth a parcel of land, which was our brother Elimelech's." Isn't this supposed to be about redeeming Ruth? But Boaz is savvy. He knows what he's doing. So one of two things might be involved here. Naomi's family owns the land that they must sell because they need the money, or Elimelech sold this land before they left for Moab, and Naomi needs to buy it back. Like, just a lot of back and forth could be going on about the land, but the Lord knows what he's doing. Boaz knows what he's doing too. Property first, wedding bells later. And in verse 4 it says, "And I thought to advertise thee, saying, Buy it before the inhabitants and before the elders of my people. If thou wilt redeem it, redeem it." So all he has offered is the land, but he's doing it at the public square. He wants an immediate answer, and he wants the nearer kinsman to have to make a quick decision. I don't know if you're like our family, but I remember when we were growing up, my dad always said, if you want the answer right now, the answer is no, whatever it is. He wanted time to think about it. But anyway, Boaz is calling for an immediate answer. Very shrewd on his part to require the kinsman to do it in front of the public and the other elders. But I think this is interesting too. He says, buy it before the inhabitants and before the elders of my people. They're also the nearer kinsman's people, right? But Boaz refers to them as my people, not our people. Supposed to be related. The second part of verse 4 says, "But if thou wilt not redeem it, then tell me, that I may know." Boaz says this, "For there is none to redeem it beside thee, and I am after thee." It's kind of like first rights. He's going to give the nearer kinsman first rights. If you're not familiar with that term, I'll tell you how we use it in education, for example. I have my classroom. The other people around me, the other teachers, have their classroom. They have first rights. If I were to walk by their room and someone is misbehaving or whatever, I don't have the right to call them out if the teacher's in there. She has first rights to correct that however she wants to. Or if someone sees a child misbehaving, if the parent is there, the parent for sure has first rights. Now, if they're doing something that would be harmful and the parent is not around, of course we would step in and say, hey, let's check this out. But first rights, and that's what Boaz is giving to the other nearer kinsman. He sounds so casual and relaxed. If you'll redeem it, redeem it. And if you're not going to, then just tell me and I'll redeem it. Just so casual. He's probably doing that on purpose. Verse 4 goes on to say, and he said, I will redeem it. The nearer kinsman said, I will redeem it. Don't you imagine at that moment, Boaz's heart just kind of fell just a little bit like, oh dear, okay, well, now he's going to have to present. Let's make a deal. He's going to have to tell him what else goes along with the land. Then said Boaz, what day thou buyest the field of the hand of Naomi, thou must buy it also of Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance. This actually goes beyond the traditions of Mosaic law. Boaz is determined to honor Ruth's request that he serve as both Goel. Remember, Goel means redeemer. It would be a redeemer of the land, and lever, lover of the soul. And so Boaz is kind of combining those two rules. The Goel we see mentioned in 1 Samuel chapter 25:22, which says this: if one of your countrymen becomes poor and sells some of his property, his nearest relative basically is to come and redeem what the countryman sold, like be the man and buy the land law. And then lever, Isaiah 45:23, about marrying a childless widow. The widow's husband's brother would take her and fulfill the duty of a brother-in-law to her. The first son she bears would carry on the name of the dead brother, so that his name would not be blotted out from Israel. This is the thing. Ruth's brother-in-law is dead because that would have been Orpah's husband. So Levirate law, though, didn't require a young widow to climb up and down the family tree until she found some living male relative to give her a son. Only a blood brother could fulfill the role of the lever. Is the way the law was intended. That's why Ruth's midnight proposal to Boaz blew his mind. She doesn't have to marry him. She doesn't. Her only brother-in-law is dead also. She chooses to marry him. That's probably why it blew his mind when she proposed to him at the threshing floor. Maybe the elders don't call his hand on his combining of those laws because they think so much of Boaz and Ruth probably. Remember, at the threshing floor, Boaz said, for all the people of my city doth know that thou art a virtuous woman. So maybe just great respect for Boaz and for Ruth, even though she's new to their town. So if Naomi had been there, he probably wouldn't have painted such a bleak picture of Naomi, I'm thinking. It accomplishes his purpose, though, because the other kinsman says this in verse 6, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I mar mine own inheritance. Redeem thou my right to thyself, for I cannot redeem it. So the other kinsman, he was willing to buy the land, but he couldn't take Ruth. He might mar his inheritance, because he would have to, the first son born to the other kinsman and to Ruth, the first son born would take on the other brother's name. And so he couldn't do it. He would take on Elimelech's name, is what he would do. So for the nearer kinsman, could it have been all about the money? We don't really know. But we know that Boaz is willing to pay whatever price. He's willing to lose the land. He's willing to do whatever, because at the end of the day, he doesn't really need the land. He wants Ruth, and he's determined to get her if at all possible. But he's going to do it with great character, which we know him to have. He's showing the ancient world what a redeemer looks like, what happens when love transcends law, thus preparing the way for a far greater redeemer, right? We're coming up on Easter. Aren't you so excited? It's next week. So perfect timing for this story here about the Goel, the redeemer. The book of Ruth isn't just a love story. It's the love story. It's a picture of God wooing his bride. drawing her into his embrace and whispering words of comfort and assurance. You're mine, you're safe, no one can pluck you out of my hand. Yes, just so great. Like Ruth, we are poor in spirit. We have no dowry to offer our bridegroom, nothing of worth. Yet the Lord is preparing a home in heaven for us, and he's given us the privilege to bear his name. I think about that so often. I heard David Gibbs from CLA one time praying at our house, I think maybe to end the evening after we'd had dinner and everything. And he said, what a privilege, Lord, that you allow us to bear your name. Yeah, it's true. And I liken that even to carrying on the McCoy name. It's my privilege to carry on Dave McCoy's name. So I get that. And Jesus has given us the privilege to bear his name. We can say he's related to us. He's our kinsman redeemer. Yes. So verse 7, now this was the manner in former time in Israel concerning redeeming and concerning changing, for to confirm all things, a man plucked off his shoe and gave it to his neighbor, and this was a testimony in Israel. Today we would sign a document and might have it notarized, whatever it is, but back then they would pluck off a shoe, and it would be symbolic of walking off the property line, like every place that the sole of your foot touches. Remember, it says back in the Old Testament with Israel, God says, I'll give you that land. Every place that the sole of your foot touches. So in verse 8 of chapter 4 of Ruth, it says, therefore the kinsman said unto Boaz, buy it for thee. So he drew off his shoe. Having signed the deal by pulling off his shoe, the other kinsman disappears off the scene. So her Redeemer lives, just as our Redeemer lives. I want to read to you verses 9 through 12 right here. You remember talking about plucking off the shoe. Do you remember the burning bush with Moses back in Exodus chapter 3, where God said, take off your shoes, you're on holy ground? We see so much symbolism kind of woven in among this story here. So verse 9 here in chapter 4 of Ruth says this, and Boaz said unto the elders and unto all the people, you are witnesses this day that I have bought all that was Elimelech's and all that was Chilion's and Mahlon's of the hand of Naomi. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, have I purchased to be my wife, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance, that the name of the dead be not cut off from among his brethren, and from the gate of his place ye are witnesses this day. And all the people that were in the gate and the elders said, we are witnesses. The Lord make the woman that is come into thine house like Rachel and like Leah, which two did build the house of Israel, and do thou worthily in Ephratah, and be famous in Bethlehem, and let thy house be like the house of Pharez, whom Tamar bare unto Judah, of the seed which the Lord shall give thee of this young woman. So not only is Boaz going to get Ruth, the townspeople are giving them a great wedding gift because they're saying, may you have many children. We know the first one is going to have to carry on Elimelech's name. But Pharez, whom Tamar bare unto Judah, Jesus would come from that tribe of Judah, one of the 12 tribes. So many lessons and thoughts here and references we could run back to the Old Testament as things have unfolded up to this part right here. But anyway, it's our hero making his move. The deal has been done at this point in our lesson, in our series, because they've met at the gate, the official meeting place for business, and it's all been settled. And Boaz is going to walk away from there and get the girl. Yeah, she's still got it. That's the name of the series we've been studying. The girl's still got it. Vibrancy, value, worth, all of the things, just like we do as the bride of Christ as well. He's redeemed us. Yeah, and he's preparing a mansion for us. And he's going to spend the ceaseless ages of eternity showing us his kindness, according to Ephesians chapter 2. So many great lessons, but I hope this one has encouraged you for today. Next week, we will finish out chapter 4. We will also talk just a little bit about resurrection and what it means, because it's Easter weekend next week. Don't you just love it when everything starts coming to life? The sun's shining today, the grass is turning green, and will need to be cut soon. Yeah, the flowers are blooming. It's a great time of year, and every year it's a reminder of the resurrection, that we also will be resurrected. Our bodies will be resurrected. If we have left our bodies in the ground, some of us are going to go up without having to die. What do you think about that? Yeah, we'll be talking about all kinds of things next week. So I hope you'll join me. Let's have a word of prayer. Lord, we do thank you so much for this time together, just to glean from your word. We thank you for the privilege of having your word and of having these stories, and Lord, of all that it represents and what it means for us personally. I thank you for each lady who has taken time to listen to this series with me. I pray that you would use it to encourage them wherever they are in life, whatever their momentary struggles and triumphs are, Lord. Help them to help me to focus on eternity just as you were focused on eternity, Lord. Well, thank you for that. And bless our church services tomorrow. I pray that you would get all the glory. For it's in Jesus' name we pray these things. Amen. Thank you again. I hope to see you next week.